let's talk about this season of Industry. So, D, you've now caught up on Industry the first three seasons, yes?
Yeah, via recap. So I actually watched the full season, first season, but I was bored, frankly. Um, yeah, I was bored. But yeah, I did some recaps and I just watched season four because I saw a lot of commentary about it. But Loki, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but we'll see.
Considering that you lived the industry world
Exactly.
much more than I ever did, I'm so interested that you were bored by it.
Hmm.
Okay. So I have watched, I think, the first 4 or 5 episodes of this season. I'm not loving this season as much as I've loved other seasons. I think there's this interesting thing that is happening that the show, I think, is losing interest in Harper as a character. I
Mm.
also found out recently that the two guys who make it, like they said that they don't have a game plan for the show, that they're writing it as they go along. And I'm not
Our
inherently
alumni,
against.
our fellow Oxford alumni.
Have you watched the Ghana episode?
Yes, I have a lot to say.
Okay. We'll talk about that episode and we'll talk about how that's connected to the
Yes.
identity of the man that writes the show,
By the
who
way,
is
do you know
our
what ethnicity he
fellow
is?
alum.
My friend
Is he
said that he's
Ghanaian?
Nigerian. No, he can't be
I,
Ghanaian. He
no,
can't be.
I think no. Do you, do you know?
He can't
Usually, I
be.
have no. You know. Usually, me, I have no problem with dragging my people's men. But in this case, the Ghanaians are going to have to step up and defend their brother. I'm
No,
pretty sure he's
this is
one
a
of them.
madness.
No, he
Wow. Okay,
is.
let's get
I'm
into
telling
it.
you.
Let's get into it.
I just wanted to generally say that they're freestyling it, which is fine. That can be fun, but I think it's affecting the tightness of the storytelling. I also have seen this very funny commentary that watching Industry, you just have to be on edge because at any point, any two characters can have sex with each other, and I
And
believe it.
that's part of my problem. Like, I can tell they're not actually trying to tell a story. And I think it's because I've worked in the finance sector. And by the way, the type of finance that they do in this show is very, very intimately linked to what I've been doing my entire career, guys. Tech career and finance career. So like, and trust me, when you work in that space, there is so much drama going on. If you think what's going on this show is insane, it's nothing compared to what happens in real life because there's so much money at stake, right? So I'm like, there's actually interesting things you can talk about and link it to real life and how it impacts people in real life. But instead, they just want to focus on these really boring, like, sex scenes. And I can tell they're just trying to be salacious with it. And the sex scenes don't even tell us anything about the interiority of the characters necessarily. Like, I just find it so boring, honestly, on that front.
I wouldn't say that I don't think the sex scenes add to the interiority of the characters, but it sometimes feels like it's almost too on the nose how it's trying to paint a picture of the characters.
Mm.
I also find the coke and the drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, those first few seasons, I genuinely felt like I had done a bunch of coke when I was done. Like I was like, I've snorted as much coke as these characters because it was just never ending. How have nobody's nostrils collapsed yet? I'm not
I'm not
sure.
gonna lie to you. So, like, I don't promote any of this stuff, guys. But God forbid, anyone who's an adult do what you want. But I will say that, like, the drug culture thing, I don't think that's wrong. I
No,
don't
I
think
don't
that's
think it is
incorrect.
at all.
Yeah,
I think it's very accurate. And
yeah.
again, don't forget, this is all being written by your fellow alum, who lived this life.
Yeah.
He lived this life, every part of this life, including that Ghana fantasy with Sweet Pea. And let's get into that now. So
Yeah.
I've looked it up because
I'm sorry. I
you
think that's a
tried,
Nigerian.
you, you tried
Sorry.
to put this on me and my people. And usually I'm perfectly down
The
to
person that wrote this
collect
is
the
a hater.
shots
They wanted
and
to come for. I watched
to
this with a
collect the
Ghanaian.
shots. But let me tell you something right now. Mickey Down, who is one of the co-runners of the show, is a British Ghanaian screenwriter and
Is that
producer. Please go
right?
and collect. To be
Okay, I
honest,
take
D,
it
between
back
the two
then.
of us, you're more likely to have Ghanaian ancestry than me. So
I'm
so
sorry. I'm genuinely shocked.
if we're being real, that's actually probably more likely your people than me.
I don't
So
mind. I
you
don't mind
can
being
claim
wrong.
him. You can claim him. I'm not involved.
I take it back. I apologize to the nation of Nigeria and its men. I'm sorry. The way how the person wrote this episode, I had to assume that this is someone that's a hater. So I had to be like, a Nigerian
Let me
wrote
tell you
this.
something. Nigerians can be a mess. Our men definitely can be messy and Babylonian as hell. But I genuinely do not think a Nigerian screenwriter showrunner that has reached the level of success and prestige that Mickey Down has with like a super successful HBO show would shoot a Nigerian episode that was like that. I actually don't think so. I don't.
But whoever wrote this, they hate Ghana.
Ghanaians, I'm not sure.
No,
I don't want
do
to
that.
speak on them. Ghanaians, they can come and talk for their man. But let me tell you something about this Mickey Down. His mother is the Ghanaian.
Oh my God.
What is going on?
All I have to say is, what's his name?
Mickey Down.
All I have to say is, did Mickey Down visit Ghana as a child? Because this was a criminal episode. As someone who's been to Accra, I love Ghana. It's a beautiful country. This was a disaster. I'm sorry. It's like they really just turned on Africa.
Well,
filter.
they didn't. But they didn't shoot that in West Africa. Yes,
it's in Durban.
Good. Yes,
allegedly. I literally think that's Peckham that they shot in. It's Peckham. Stop the mess. That is Peckham, South London.
There was just too much going on. Like, for the fact that it very clearly and unambiguously did not look like West Africa, the interesting accents that were going on that didn't sound like either Ghanaian or South African accents. They just sounded like some kind of Wakanda situation. To this physical
premium
sexual predation on the blonde white woman that's happening from the... No, we'll get to the premium calcium in a second, but I want to land on him. But before we get to him, the fact that like she gets this attack from a big black African man looking at her from across the bar, and she's the one white, blonde, small woman on the show. All of that is crazy enough. And I know industry likes to pride itself on like making fun of quote unquote wokery. So they would probably love all these draggings we're doing. But all of that was crazy enough. And then we get to the premium calcium.
It's a joke. It's a disaster. And what I found interesting is like, again, I don't take this show seriously, but the show starts with Harper and sorry, what's his name?
His name is
on the show. Kwabena. How can I forget?
Kwabena.
Wait. I need to say something very quickly.
That actor is a Nigerian man, by the way.
No, very quickly. First of all, the way how this character pronounces their name is ridiculous. I'm not Ghanaian. I don't have a fight in this. But what did he say? Something like Kwabena? That's not how you say your name, bro. But anyway, so yes, the show starts with Harper and Kwabena in the middle of the act, right? And Harper says, have you seen Sweet Pea's Siren video? I bet you wanted to see it because she's a small white woman and you're some big black buck. And I was just thinking, what the hell is going on? Like, I knew that a black man wrote this. I'm sorry. I know a black woman didn't get involved in this.
So do you know when I watched that, I had the exact same thought. Not just that a white woman, but I just knew that specifically it was a black British bandit. Like, I knew it. There's a very particular...
Babylon bandit.
There's a very, very specific way that British black men who date interracially behave that no other kind of black men who also date interracially behave. And I'm not saying it's necessarily better or worse, but I'm just saying there's a very specific level of utter like self, just like
degradation.
Zero. What's that word that I see people saying that you have low racial self-esteem? That's the terminology. There's a very particular kind of questionable racial self-esteem that they have, where they lead in their fetishism of white women in a way that is so completely lacking in any kind of dignity. That you're just, and they think it's like a character, like to them it's an important character trait that they love to announce, because all that shenanigans that character is doing, it's all about, look at me, I like white women.
I'm a big
AKA
black guy
from the voice of the writer. And this is a show, again, that's always trying to push sexual buttons, racial buttons, blah, blah, blah. Our protagonist is always sleeping with white men and black men and Asian men or whatever.
Anyone.
Yeah, everybody sleeps with everybody. But I don't think I've ever had a character describe their racial fetishization like that before on this show, until the man that happens to share the same identity markers as the guy that's writing it. even the way the sex scene, I mean, all the industry sex scenes are kind of filmed in a disgusting way. But
Exactly.
in particular, the way it was filmed, it was giving, I was like, oh, what in the
Back way.
It would have been wild enough if all of that was just happening in a regular industry episode.
Yeah.
But that happening in the middle of all sorts of questionable racial and geographic presentation of continental Africans that have been happening all episode long. I was just literally looking like, what's
It was a
going
bit
on
much.
here?
And also on this topic of like racialized sex, right? The show doesn't make a point of it, and I'm gonna tread very carefully on this. You know the scene where Harper is sleeping with that insufferable flipping startup guy? Yeah.
Which one of them? That describes like 20 of them.
Oh, Whitney.
Okay.
Right. And obviously, you know, they're also doing back way. And then he says, oh, well, can you return the favor? I want to do something with you. And he basically asks her to peg him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's looking in the mirror and she's like, I guess she's sizing it up. Maybe she feels powerful, whatever it is. Like, I'm not trying to shame anyone. Like, anyone should do what they want sexually. But I wonder if there's something going on there as well when it comes to the racialized element as well. In the way that a lot of people remember who Harper is, right? Even though, is she recognized as mixed race in the show? Or is she considered black?
She is. Her mom is white.
In the show.
I don't think anybody ever describes her directly, but for example, this season, Eric defends himself that he's not fetishizing black women when talking to her. I don't think people just talk to her as a biracial person because she's American. Even though in the UK she was British, she would identify as biracial or mixed race. So yeah, I think she's coded as a black woman on the show.
Yeah. Harper's identity is that she's a black woman, right? She's in a very male-dominated industry. And the harsh reality is, if you're trying to succeed in that sort of industry, you can't be an overtly feminine person. Like, none of the senior female bankers that I've met before have that kind of personality, because they would just be, they wouldn't survive, right? So this type of woman is already being masculinized in this environment. And then we see this scene where she's being asked to peg this guy. And again, I'm not even necessarily saying that that's something that can't be feminine or anything like that. But I do wonder if there's like a racial element to it, and maybe the writers just don't have the balls to actually come and say what they have to say with their chest.
It's interesting. I didn't think about the racial element, even though I don't think you're wrong. I was thinking more about what they were trying to say about about sexuality. Because since then, Whitney has been shown to be, in his general shifty ways, to be preying on Henry's stupidity, basically, and potentially like sexually preying on him. And I mean, you haven't watched the most recent episode, but this is not a major plot spoiler, but the episode opens with Henry in the shower, Whitney walking into their room while Henry is showering, holding flowers, and then he walks up, like Henry is not facing him, he walks up to Henry right behind him, as in like almost close enough to touch him, and is just staring at him while he's showering.
Oh dear.
Then he walks up. Somehow Henry doesn't notice any of this, but you know he's an idiot. He walks back away, but he doesn't leave the room. Henry then realizes that someone is in the room. He turns around to make sure he's not spooked or anything, to make sure he sees all the goods. And they're just staring at each other. And then after, our good sis, Ghislaine Maxwell, aka Yasmin, walks in and she's like, what the hell is going on here? And then after she kicks Whitney out of her house, she asks Henry that, do you enjoy the fact that he wants to fuck you? And then Henry then tells her that, oh, just because I sucked some dicks in boarding school, that doesn't count.
Okay, so they're talking about it then. So
Yes.
No, but so what I find interesting is, like, I went to grammar school, right? And one thing that shocked me going from like a very working class comprehensive school and then going to grammar school is that, like, and it was a boys' school as well. I shouldn't say more than that to not dox myself, but it was a boys' school, but it had a mixed sixth form. And like the way how the young boys were like doing all sorts of things, it was shocking to me. It was scandalous. for me as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. And it wasn't even like, I'm not even talking about people who are identifying as like, not straight today. I'm just talking about these are just young boys exploring, and it's just part of the culture of the school. So I'm talking about stuff going on in the toilets. I'm talking about this game they used to play called Soggy Biscuit, where boys would all be like jerking off basically onto a biscuit. And then apparently the person that takes the longest to come, they're the one that has to eat the biscuit. Like,
it's giving very much all the stuff they said the Beatles used to do with each other. Listen, this is British posh boy culture. And hey, who are we to judge their sexuality? I'm not judging. But the point is, I thought, and this is why I say again that for me, the sex in the show, to me, is actually almost too on the nose. They're introducing that to tell you that, yes, this man likes to be penetrated. He's queer. That's what I got from that. Even though now that he and Henry have gotten freaky, I don't know if I think that those are the positions they're implying between those two characters. But anyway, but I did find the scene where Myha'la, which I am conscious she's very visibly nude a lot on the show.
Yeah.
And the scene where she's standing there with the big strap on looking in the mirror, the way the camera really just goes up and down on her body, I'm just like, this is really something. I'm not sure, and this is not an attack on her, or even necessarily an attack on how sexuality is portrayed on the show. I'm not sure that the white main cast of women are ever actually featured that way sexually. I'm not saying the white women don't. I mean, we had a crazy scene where Yasmin's father was having an erection underneath her. So I'm not saying they don't put them in.
From season when? Season 3?
I think so.
Ew, I don't remember that.
You remember
I know what they're implying with her, though.
Yeah, you know the whole thing with her dad dying on the boat, and the way Ghislaine Maxwell's dad died in real life, and how they were fighting on the boat, and then he jumped out, and that's how he died. What caused the fight is that she walked in on him having sex with a pregnant woman. No, he was eating out a pregnant woman, and then when she had a reaction to it, he then forces her down underneath him, and he's yelling in her face, and they keep having flashes to his erection. Either way, what I'm saying is that I'm not saying the non-black women in this show don't also get put into like sexually explicit and borderline degrading scenarios for their characters sometimes. But because Myha'la, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Myha'la, who plays Harper, who is our lead, she, I believe, has the most on-screen nudity. It's just much more in my face because I just know what it means. The sexualization of the black body is just inherently politicized.
Thank you. I think you've been able to articulate more what was making me feel unsettled with that scene. And I think the other thing is, like, again, not judging anyone, Harper is quite promiscuous on the show. Good for her. But I think the problem I have with it is, like, she's being very promiscuous with people who make it quite clear they don't give a damn about her. And so it's like, I just wonder if Harper has care in her life because her family don't give a damn about her, which we already know. She's sharing her body with these men who, we've got Kwabena, who apparently he's basically come out and said that he doesn't even like her now. He's admitted that he doesn't even like black women.
I've forgotten that those two were sleeping together as well. And this is another thing, right? Because the choice from our Ghanaian British showrunner and writer to write those two characters as sleeping together. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time you actually see Harper having sex with a dark-skinned man.
Yes, it's true.
She's had sex with black men or biracial men in the past, but I think this is the first time you see her having sex with a dark-skinned black man. So the fact that you've introduced them the one time she's sleeping with a dark-skinned black man, and then you make a point of that being the one black man to explicitly state that, forgive me, Dr. Umar, I like me some premium calcium, I like small little blonde white women. It's just like, what are you trying to say here?
We know what they're trying to say. But I think this is why I just can't connect with the show. I can feel the black men, as you say, British black man banditry all over it. Like, I just know it's not meant for me.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be watching, but yeah, that's it.
I have one thing I want to add though. So again, I think the show is very ridiculous. There's all sorts of things going on, but there's one piece of commentary which I really did like, and that is when we have Yasmin.
Oh, I know what you're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Is it the racist Germans?
when we have Yasmin going to visit the Austrians with Henry and Whitney, right? And they're
Oh,
trying to
they're
close this deal with the
Austrians.
bank. Yes, very important for what I'm about to say. They're trying to close this deal with the Austrian legacy bank, right? Family bank. And what I found interesting about it is they get vibes very quickly that the bankers involved, the family involved are racist, right? And they're dropping all sorts of anti-Semitism hints. And they clock it. But at the end of the day, when you work for a bank, when you're working in that type of industry, you have to close the deal. It doesn't matter about what you think about these sorts of things. And of course, the banks will come up with all sorts of HR, this, that. Oh, we support diversity, rare. But when you've got millions of dollars on the line, you have to get it through. And so when we see Yasmin clock that, oh, shoot, this is Adolf Hitler's artwork on the wall in the room that I'm staying within this family, and I'm a Middle Eastern woman, like, I enjoyed seeing that. I enjoyed seeing that penny drop.
D, I'm so happy you brought this up. I have a very serious question for you. Do you think Industry, the show, do you think the point they're making about that Yasmin character is that she's dumb?
No, not at least. I think that
I don't mean with this storyline, I mean in general.
Yeah, so before this season, I would have said yes. I think with this season, though, I think they're trying to come up with a redemption arc for themselves, really, because it's not appropriate to write a character like that. But I think the fact that she's great at being a spin doctor, she knows exactly who to talk to, she knows exactly what information to share. Like, I can't see how that would be considered dumb. But what do you think?
But there are certain scenarios they put that character in the way people talk about her. Maybe it is a commentary on misogyny, where I repeatedly feel like they're trying to make it seem like she gets outsmarted very easily. Or if not outsmarted, that people around her are moving she's always a few steps behind in terms of pace of thinking than the rest of them, including Harper. And it's something I felt them do multiple times. But with this Hitler one, that was the possibly most glaring one to me. Because like you said, I think it's Whitney that says something to her like, isn't your surname
Hasnani? That was funny when you said that.
It's like, he said, you seem very calm for a person whose surname is Hanani, right? And I'm like, okay, I get it. She's a privileged little posh girl. But how many tropes need to fall from a white man sitting beside you, telling you basically how he wishes everybody could be back to being sorted by the size of their skulls? Do you need to hear before you're like, what's going on here? It's one thing for her to hear it and say, okay, I'm still going to seal the deal. It's another thing for her to not pluck it until it has been slapped in her face 1,000 times. Even that scene where she's walking in the woods or whatever with his mom, and the mom basically confirms that I'm just a more polite version of my son, and you can see a bit of a discomfort, but she's still not actually clocking what's going on. And
Let me defend my sis.
What in the get out is this?
Let me defend my sis.
Now you being a Yasmin Hanani defender.
Now look, to be clear, I left the finance industry because of all of this nonsense. All of the stuff the show shows you is the reason why I left. Having said that, though, a lot of people, there's a conceptualization of the banker as someone who's made it in life. They're super wealthy and rare. It's true that bankers get paid well compared to the average person, but actually when you're in that environment, the bankers we see on screen, they are the brokest people they know. They're surrounded by people who are millions and millions. What this means is they are hungry. You have to be really hungry in that industry. So what does this mean? When you're working in an industry that is one of the worst sectors you can work for, in my personal opinion, when it comes to misogyny, when it comes to racism, when it comes to just cutthroatness and all the ugly sides of human life, right? If you want to succeed in that environment, especially as a woman and especially as a woman of color, you just have to turn your brain off to certain things. Otherwise, you are going to crash out and then you'll be banned from the industry permanently. So why I'm saying all of this is
But does Yasmin turn her brain off, or was it just never on?
Again, I think that depends on how you read the character. I give her some grace because I do see, based on what we see from the show at least, that there's something going on up there. She knows, she's much smarter than her husband, I'll put it that way. He's the dumb.
Yes.
He's the real dumb. I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think I just maybe give her grace. Maybe it's because I've been in that situation before where it's like, you know in yourself that like this is a messed up situation. But what are you gonna do about it?
By the way, I like the Yasmin character, and I really like. Sorry, I enjoy Yasmin's character. And I really like Marisa's performance, and
Mm-hmm.
the I do think the show is actually kind of fascinating for choosing to make a Ghislaine Maxwell character and choosing
Yes,
to make that one of your protagonists. That's a very bold and wild choice to make, but I do actually
it
kind of
is.
find it intriguing. So all this I'm saying is not actually a critique or a condemnation of who
Mm-hmm.
she is. It's just like like what is the takeaway we're supposed to have of this woman?
Yeah.
I agree, she's not like stupid. She's not dense. There are many dense men running around the show. She's not one of them. But there's some
Mm-hmm.
times where they demonstrate her having such lack of visibility that I'm a bit scared.
I get that.
I also want to say on Henry, I know who Henry is supposed to be. I don't want to dox myself either, but Henry is a character from the real life energy crisis that the UK had when I used to work in that industry. So I know exactly who that character is supposed to be, and they get it perfectly right. Is this idiotic, blowhard, dumb, rich boys that got given too much seed money and just did willy-nilly stuff with people's energy accounts. And when Russia then invaded Ukraine, the spiral effect it had is that it increased everybody's energy bills across the country, and they were never held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay. I mean, there's so much other stuff to talk about, but I think I'm very happy that you brought up the Hitler one because I found that laugh out loud funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like it when the show shows that our characters, even whilst they're taking advantage of it, they know the level of serious racism or violence that's going on, and they're like, I know what's happening here, and this is how I'm going to operate around it. Like they do it with Eric's character as an Asian man in a actually I find quite nuanced way. To be honest, he is handled. The raciality of his character is handled better than the raciality of the black men on the show.
But you know, I have a theory, by the way. I think that the writers legit hate Asian men, except for Eric for some reason. Like Asian men have a terrible edit in the show. I'm like, damn.
Are you including Yasmin's father in this? Yes.
Yeah, actually, I didn't initially, but yeah, he's in it as well. Like, I don't know how they're getting away with this. I wouldn't allow them to do this with black people.
Which other Asian men are you referring to?
First of all, we have Rishi, the weird like.
Oh, well, okay. Now, stop right there, D. I don't play about Rishi.
Oh my god.
I have such a huge crush on Sagar Radia that plays him. I find him so hot. I'm so sorry, I don't play about Rishi. So let me just say that before you proceed. Go on.
We have the first Asian guy from the first series who is the one who dies basically because and unfortunately that's happened in real life multiple times, by the way. So I'm glad that they covered that.
That whole character I felt like was a very good example of the thing you and I always talk about, that from that university we went to where like certain people are not going to realize it until it's too late that all this shit ain't worth it.
Not worth it. There's another one as well, but I can't remember their name, unfortunately. What is his name? He's a bigger... Oh, yes, Jonah. What's his name? Jonah. Yeah.
Is it the other trader that Rishi used to basically bully on the floor?
No. But I know there's another trader, but more importantly, it's Jonah. Jonah, the other startup founder, the Asian guy. You have Whitney and then Jonah, right? Whitney's supposed to be this like strategist.
Played by Cal Penn. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just a disaster, basically. He has not. And did you know what is so sad, right? When the women are online talking about, I want a finance bro, the best you can do is find yourself a Jonah, because he doesn't have a life, right? None of these guys have lives. That's the problem. But Jonah is just like sad in general, right? So if you could just take over his whole life, he'll give you money. That's fine. That's the best he could do. But yeah, his life is a disaster. Like, all he does is go to strip clubs. He's doing all sorts of nonsense in the business. His business gets taken from him. Like, I swear, the writers hate Asian men for some reason.
Meanwhile, probably as a woman, the scariest one you can pick in your life is our good boy Whitney, because Whitney, the evil just emanates from him.
Yeah.
And he will definitely ruin your life.
He will. But again, it's kind of similar to our dialogue within Wuthering Heights, right? I get the vibe that these writers are also scared of the working class as well. And this is a problem in the banking industry in general, where like, because there have been more efforts to increase diversity. And by the way, the banking sector really does need diversity because, as we see in the Ghana episode, Kwabena is able to use his local intel to help them, right? So literally, this industry needs diversity. But what's happening is the old white boys, and some of them Asian as well, and some black, but less so. The old boys club, though, they're looking at this and they're like, oh, for God's sake, now that means we can't do this. Now that means we can't do that. And so there is like a bitterness that, like the povers are coming. The broke people are coming. And so I found it really interesting that Whitney, who's obviously someone who grew up rough, like you can tell that this guy's been through some stuff because he's bulletproof, like he's tough. And it's almost like the way how they've written him, it's almost like I felt like they're saying this is why we should keep the povers out because they're just too ruthless or something like that. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting, but
no, I don't think you are. I don't think you are. I think it is very valid to have a very critical take on the guys that are writing this show. There's real darkness here, but I don't think you can come out of that world without darkness. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just look at Rishi.
Yes.
That whole Rishi Uncut Gems episode was, speaking of things that made me feel like I had done coke. Like, when I watched that episode, I literally felt my own heart rate going up. It's just, yeah. How this man is still walking around freely after his messy habits that came from being a coked up trader, got his white wife shot. I don't know. And again, this goes back to the thing I was saying about how I feel like they do race with these other men better than the black men, because there's, in the Rishi episode, you see, for example, his dog is called Radia, but his white neighbors keep calling it Roger, and he doesn't correct them, but you can see it's annoying him. And then finally at the end, he's like, she's called Raja, not Roger, or whatever it is.
Interesting.
And there's also just little things, like when he's taking his walks in the morning, the neighbors are like, who is that over there? And then when they realize it's him, and he has the biggest house in the neighborhood, which his wife didn't even want to move to, but he felt he needed to acquire it as some symbol of, look at me, I made contest. It. Yes, exactly. And look, I have the white wife and the big house in the countryside. You can't ever talk to me. But meanwhile, you get there and they're still calling your dog Raja, Roger. They don't rate you. Your white neighbor is eating your wife out. Like, they don't care about you. I don't understand how they can get that level of nuance about writing the upwardly mobile Asian British man's experience and then give us that Ghana episode.
But we have to blame Mikey. Mikey has to answer for this episode. I'm sorry. I'm not even Ghanaian and I'm heated.
Oh my God, DP, we spent too long talking about this. Oh my God. No, but it's very funny. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on the rest of this season of Industry.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be more mess to come.
They should not return to fake Ghana again. Just leave it alone. Just stay in London, sir. It's okay.
Yeah.